everybody, and welcome to another edition of our complete set review of Modern Masters 2015. I'm Evan Irwin.
I'm Brad Nelson.
All day, and we're here to talk about all the black cards and half of the multicolor cards as found in Modern Masters 2015. This is the latest Modern Masters set, of course. I expect this to be a very regular thing, as we all know. And we're going to get started with Bitter Blossom for black. Now, Bitter Blossom is amazing. Took over standard, it feels a little weird at Mythic, but it's unbelievably powerful, so I understand it, even if just for limited play. Like, this is a card you don't really want to see often.
Yeah, it's not a card that that's exactly it. But also, Bitter Blossom deserves Mythic after how much dominance it had in standard for so long. Like, and I'm not even making this up. I went somewhere around 152 with fairies at like F&M's Saturday tournaments back before I like started like traveling to play Magic. Like, this deck was unbeatable if you were really good at Magic. Like, you just won every single match. It didn't matter. Like, Thoughtseize, Bitter Blossom, Mistbind Click,
Medillion Click,
Cryptic Command,
Scion of Una.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the real killer was the Scion. Scion gave your other Fae hexproof. Or Shroud, rather. And as a result, this is a fairy card, so then all of a sudden they couldn't destroy your Bitter Blossom, they had to kill the Scion of Una, and then they would play another Scion of Una, because it wasn't legendary, of course. Why would it be? And, yeah, that's just kind of what happened. So when you can't kill anything of theirs, and all of their stuff is making dudes that are evasive anyway, or making infinite jump blockers for 1 life a pop, it was kind of out of control.
It was that, or you just play Bitter Blossom into Mistbind Click, tap you down, Mistbind Click, tap you down, Mistbind Click, you're dead.
Yep.
And that kind of stuff happened, but Bitter Blossom in Modern has become less of a fairy card and more of a tokens card. And tokens is still this like fringe tier 2 deck that has been, it's good in the format when the format is fair, and when there's a lot of combo, the deck's not that great.
Right.
And so right now, it's not the best, but it's a card that is just going to continue to fluctuate in the format as long as it exists. And so it makes it a card that's worth having. And like, let's just talk about its limited implications. It's busted. If you play it on turn 2, it's going to be almost impossible to lose as long as you hit your 3rd land drop and get to make more plays.
Yep, make just basically any other play, and you spend spend time turning them sideways. You know, like, don't get like really cute with it and try to chump block or block 3 or 4 against a guy. Or just get them. They will die. That's what happens. It is
a tempo driven card that you are now on a clock to win. But the best part about the card is sometimes a late game Bitter Blossom just turns into a 1 damage per turn to stop their biggest creature. All of them have flying, so it can stop big flyers. And a turn 2 Bitter Blossom on the play is almost unbeatable. Like, card's great. I love it.
Unreal. Fantastic. Bloodthrone Vampire, your 2 mana for your 1/1s, your sacking creatures, more of the sacking creature stuff we talked about in other colors. There's lots of nice free sack outlets in this set. And obviously we talk about Bitter Blossom into Bloodthrone Vampire, You need to somehow pump your dude. If you have to, again, you'd much rather swing with those fairies, but if you got to, you can pump here or just kill them out of nowhere as a result.
Yeah, and like this is Bloodthrone Vampire is practically the like Thoughtcast or the Frogmite of the sack outlet deck. It's not going to be good if you're not playing a bunch of ways to make the synergies work, but Bloodthrone Vampire is the card that you're going to want 3 or 4 of if you have access to all the other cards that you want to be sacrificing. So this is going to be the main common you're going to want in that theme deck.
Right. And so, this is one of those cards that, like, if you have a bunch of other tokens, you have a bunch of other guys, and you attack with a Bloodthrone Vampire, they do the math. Like, your opponent has to do the math, and you're like, okay, well, if you gave it +6/+6, and I'm at 7 life, I have to block it, even if I'm going to block it and lose my best guy, because I can't just let you through. I'm just dead.
Yep.
So that's the power in this card. But otherwise, it really needs to be on theme to really make it work.
Yeah.
Bone Splinters, woo-woo, Shards of Alar in the house.
Yeah, just another card that is based on the sack outlet, and that's really Black's theme in this set,
really
which is like one of the best places for Black to be, even like cube driven or in general. Like, Modern Masters is somewhat like a cube format where they get to build it, they get to design it in a way with all these old cards, and Black decks are always underwhelming if they're not based around tokens and sack outlets and stuff like that. And Bone Splitters just works because sometimes you're going to have these tokens, like maybe from the Mythic Bitter Blossom or maybe from something else.
Like Raise the Alarm or something.
Yeah, and you're just going to want to kill something that's really big. And this card just makes it very easy. For 1 mana, you get to kill any creature on the board. Yep. It doesn't matter. There's no restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, it's basically, you're trading your worst creature for their best creature, and if you have tokens, that's even better. Therefore, you didn't have to lose a 2-for-1. I mean, you didn't have to give 2 cards for their 1 card. And of course, if theirs is enchanted, then you have parity and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, this works best in a token strategy. And removal is removal. So, like, you want to play it. And again, even if you're trading 2-for-1, if that creature is going to kill you or that creature is unbelievably powerful, it's worth it.
Yeah, especially in a format that's so power-driven like this. Like, there's power and there's synergy, and so you're going to want this card in a synergistic deck, but sometimes you might have to board it in if they just have so many powerful creatures that are just going to kill you.
Yep. It's very, very good. Removal is as removal does, and we have Dagger Claw Imp, evasive flyer at 3 mana. Like, it doesn't matter if it can't block because you're really wanting to just turn this guy sideways.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of, like, cheap interactive deal 1 damage type effects in this format that, like, usually Dagger Claw Imps will, like, suffer in. Yeah. Like, there are removal spells in this format, but they're like lightning bolts and real removal spells. So this card's going to be very powerful in this format because if you get it down early and you get on the aggressive, you're going to be able to use this to leverage a lot of tempo-based wins.
And no one really wants to use their removal on this guy.
You know, oh, no, most people do because it will just kill them.
Oh, it will just kill you. All I'm saying is, like, ultimately, you know, it doesn't look like the best trade, but that much power, that much evasion, you know, it's like you have to do something or you're just going to lose to this thing.
Yeah, it's a very powerful card.
Dark Confidant.
Yeah, I mean...
With artwork that isn't Bob Maher.
Yep, but it is a card that continuously needs to be printed so people can play with it. Even though right now it's at its lowest time, it's like not that good in the format right now.
Right, but it's the way it draws cards and sort of the way it interacts, it doesn't take much for this guy to just be like, oh, he's just like a major player in the format again because it's Dark Confidant. And it's great. Obviously, it's going to be in all the cubes, and I believe the casual decks will like something like this. But ultimately, in terms of it constructed, Dark Confidant's always a force to be at least recognized as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean it's based on how good Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize are in the format. Like when those cards are really good, this card gets great because like if everyone's fighting these like black green X mirrors, like whether it's Obzon or Jund, a Dark Confidant's great because if both players are just destroying each other's resources, getting early card advantage is great. And it's also a card that when you play it, your opponent's forced to deal with it the next turn. So there's that rock, paper, scissors in those mirrors where if you play it and they just get to Lily sacrifice, stuff like that. But whenever those decks are really good in the format, this card's great. Yeah,
and what you want to do ultimately is play Dark Confidant, then play your own Liliana of the Veil, and then, and kind of work that out, make them discard or make you both discard or make them sack a guy and so on and so forth. But like the power of this card is real. Limited, if you're like black-green, is it a little too dangerous if you have too many sort of high casting cost fatties?
I don't know how dangerous a Dark Confidant is in Limited. It depends on where your deck's at, but I would assume not, just because you do get to draw 2 cards a turn. You get to attack with it, right? Like you can just keep sending it, and it's really hard for an opponent to, let them keep taking 2 damage at the risk of you getting so much card advantage that the life loss isn't going to matter at all. So in Constructed, you tend to want to protect your Dark Confidant, not like throw it away or trade it in combat.
Yeah, of course.
Keep getting card advantage. But in Limited, it's just a 2-drop that can trade with another creature, can keep attacking them, and sometimes get you some card advantage. So I would always play it in a deck unless I was some themed control deck that I just don't want access to that.
Yeah, and I mean I'm the guy who played like Rakdos, red, black back in the day with Gargadon.
Hit run.
Gargadon and hit run.
See, I never got Gargadon for my Dark Confidants, but I got hit and run many times.
Oh, I got Gargadon, and I still want to mox with that deck. It was great, but like all the memories for Dark Confidant are fantastic. I still wish to have the old art, and I really don't understand the whole. We can't print their likeness again. I don't get it. It's the meddling maze problem. Like, I don't understand, but whatever.
I had a Modern Masters flashback from the last time we did this.
Yes.
Because when he said I want to mox with it, I was just like, an MOC or an MOX? And I was like, oh, I've already done that joke.
Nice. Exactly. So Death Denied is a card. It's great because it's instant, but it's also one of those cards that it looks more powerful than it ends up being. I was always kind of like surprised. Like, it's good, but it was never like, oh my God, it's overpowering. Is it just me?
No, I think it's the opposite. It looks like it's not going to be that good because like on the surface, it's like you both put a bunch of creatures to play. It does nothing in your hand until like all of it's been interacted with. And then you can just get a bunch of card advantage out of it.
Sure.
But like this is like the Sphinx's Rev of Limited. I think you don't want to play too many though, because you can't just cast at any time.
Right.
But like in the late game, if both players are just trading resources, all of a sudden you just put your entire graveyard back in your hand.
Right.
And then you just recast all your creatures. You should be able to win from that.
The fact that it's an instant is a big deal. Yeah. The fact that the common still throws me off. And the other half is that you don't want to play too many of them because, as you said, they can kind of clump up in your hand. Like 2 Death Denied in your hand with like 1 creature in the yard.
It's just terrible.
It is bad.
So yeah, I think that a lot of decks are going to want to play 1. This is a much better sealed card than a draft card.
Yeah.
Because everyone in sealed is going to play the colors that have the most removal because
They're slower decks.
You don't know how you're going to win a lot of games, but you know you're going to lose to bombs. Like, you need to be able to deal with them. So everyone's going to have a ton of removal in their sealed pools and play as many as possible, even splash for them, since we have such good fixing in this format. And so getting, card advantage is really essential. And black doesn't have a ton, where blue has a decent amount. White has, certain ways to gain card advantage through, like, token generation and stuff like that, and making their tokens relevant. This is black's card advantage.
You need something for the late game, and as a result, you don't want to go too deep into it. But yeah, I mean, certainly everyone's going to have probably some bomb creature in their sealed pools per se, and this is the one that lets you kind of trump it.
Yeah.
Deathmark. I love Deathmark. I also really like this image. I thought this art was super creepy, super effective, really cool.
This is the Ice Age one, right?
Or no, Cold Snap.
Or Cold Snap, yeah.
Yep. And
I mean, Ice Age block one.
Oh, actually, the file they found behind the drawer or whatever. Like, give me a break. And then everyone was pissed because they believed it, and it was like, no, guys, we were just playing. It wasn't a file hidden behind the file.
We just wanted to make a set that you guys would, play with.
Right, and go to a tournament, and they give you the Merit Lage token that I just gave away because I thought it was silly, and now it's like infinite dollars.
Is it?
Yeah, because no one went to the Cold Snap release.
Wow, I didn't know that. The foil one?
Yeah.
But why would that be worth any value now that Jerry is the Merit Lage token?
Well, there you go.
And I'm on that token.
You are on that token.
I am
He's
on
the little
token.
dude going,
yeah,
in token. It's great.
It's kind of Jerry's and I's interactions for the whole time that we did verse videos, where I'm like, yelling,
he'd just be like, crush, smash. It's how it works. But Deathmark and in Modern is obviously very powerful. 1 black to remove anything is always great, and I guess these days is killing siege rhinos.
I mean, in Modern, yeah, it's a sideboard card that can help kill like Tarmogoyfs and siege rhinos. There's not a lot of white creatures that you really get value out of. Like, the best white creatures in the format maybe come from like this new Collected Company deck.
Sure.
That it'd be nice to kill like Anafenza.
Right.
But mostly you're just hitting like Kitchen Finxes and voices that are white. And I mean,
that's awkward.
That's
really awkward.
You love every time a voice dies.
Oh yeah, because that's when I show up.
Yep.
And I'm just like, hey y'all, and that's great. But like, ultimately, it's not a pro for Deathmark.
No, yeah, you're mostly killing Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah, it's just destroy target Tarmogoyf, maybe a siege rhino. I mean, like maybe a Ramaz or something. But like, the Geist Saint Trapped is the white creature you want to kill that you can.
Exactly.
Devouring Greed.
This is such an interesting card. When I saw this card as one of the first cards that I saw, and I was just like, what is in this set?
Yeah, you need a bunch of spirits. Now, this card was from Kamigawa block, it's my jam. And this card did some serious work. Back then, like, basically everything was a spirit. So you could just Devouring Greed for, like, 10.
What was a spirit or a not? What non-spirits were in there? Like, there's literal removal in there that said destroy target spirit or non-spirit. Sure. Or destroy target spirit, and one said destroy target non-spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. There were 2 totally different removal spells. And so, yeah, I mean, not every single thing was a spirit, but obviously you had just a ton of them in your deck. Yeah, and you could draft that way. And so Devouring Greed turned into be a card that you could just end games with. And it's really what you're trying to do here because, well, you have to sacrifice a spirit in order to even trigger it once. It's not like it does it and then it does it for each additional. It only does it if you sack something to start with. So it's really a finisher, and you really have to draft your whole deck around getting all these spirits so you can have them in play, and then blah. Like, there's Soul Shift stuff that we'll get to in a bit, but like that's not really going to help in terms of like what this card is trying to do for you. This is the one copy that you run in your deck because you're like, oh great, I've got 3 spirits and you're at 6 life.
Also, this is the kind of card that you don't want to first pick and draft around. It's a card that you want to get in pack 3 when you're already established as like triple Spectral Procession or just a bunch of different spirit tokens or spirit creatures. We'll get to.
It's really cool that it works with Spectral Procession.
Yeah,
that's really sweet. I like that interaction a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you knew this, but Spectral Procession interacts with many cards in Magic's history.
Nuh-uh.
Like almost a lot of them.
Dude.
Maybe most of them.
I mean, if it was only as good as the blue one.
Yeah, it triggers prowess.
Yeah.
It fuels Delve.
That was our previous themes, Brad.
Yep.
This is just not the card that you first pick or even pick early in pack 1 so you can build your deck around it. I mean, and no one's going to want it unless they're kind of in this spirit sort of angle.
Yeah, so they're just going to pass it along, and this is the card you get late in the draft, but you don't pick early and then just force yourself down the spirit pathway. You want to get the powerful cards that are spirits instead of being forced to draft any bad spirits.
Yeah, any spirit that you see at that point that you have to take. Dismember, amazing removal spell. The thing that I always remember about Dismember is that early in spoiler season for New Phyrexia, before everything just got busted or whatever, like a weekend, they first showed you Phyrexian Obliterator. and everyone
Oh,
was
yeah.
flipping out. That card was like,
How
boom,
do you kill it?
$30 pre-order. Like, oh my God, this card's unbelievably insane. Return of Mono Black. Everyone wanted Mono Black until they got it in Theros and they hated it.
Yeah.
But like, unbelievably powerful. And how are we going to deal with this card? Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And then like the whole set was spoiled and Dismember shows up and you're like, oh.
Yeah, they have an
Oh.
answer for it.
Yeah.
And the card never did
It didn't do anything in Standard.
ever.
Why?
Like,
Because this card existed. But it's now
also
getting some-
Cobblade.
Yeah, well, because Cobblade was nuts.
Also, you would play. It didn't pass the Jace test back then either. That's the big problem. Like everyone kept seeing all these awesome cards, and they never passed the Jace test. Like the only 4-drop that did was what, like Vengevine.
Hero of Oxid Ridge.
Hero of Oxridge did too.
Yep.
There's very few
And
cards that
Vengevine
actually passed that.
It
So-
had to have haste.
yeah, it had to have haste
Had to
or
have
have a
haste.
come into play ability,
Exactly. That
or
was really
cost
powerful.
1 or 2 mana.
Or not cost 4.
Yeah,
Right. Or
it
not.
just could not, come into play and then Jace bounce it, or what they play Jace Brainstorm, and your only answer is, I'll play this thing where you bounce it immediately for no real loss.
Right. And you'll get to bounce it, and then you'll get to play another spell, and I'll look like an idiot, and I'll have a Phyrexian Obliterator in my hand. It's a super cool looking mythic, doesn't do anything. So with Jace Band in Modern, and you have a lot of good like sweet black spells in Modern, you can actually run Phyrexian Obliterator, and it's actually a very expensive card now because it kind of came back around, and Dismember is not like this #1 premier removal spell in the format.
Also, there's like sweet Jund decks that just have a mana base based around being able to all produce black mana and trying to use like the what are they called, the filter lands to cast other spells, and they play like Domri Raid, and one of my opponents did that to me the other day. In Modern, I'm starting to test the format for the GP.
He fought with
And he
Phyrexian
played
Obliterator.
Domri Raid, and I couldn't kill that turn. And then he played Phyrexian and fought and killed my thing, and then my board. And I was like, that's a sweet combo, bro. Like, next game.
Jeez, bro. It's
Yeah.
pretty good, man. It's pretty good. So yeah, Dismember is removal. It's some of the best removal there is. It goes in any color. You can grab it for any deck. I mean, like, I'm happy paying 4 life to kill your best thing pretty much every time. It doesn't really matter whether I'm finishing off one of your guys or whether I'm just killing your thing at the end of your turn. Obviously, you can play it with black mana. That's great, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just the premium removal of the
Yeah, I
format.
mean, outside, like, there's not a lot of Planeswalkers in this format, and you even look at Constructed right now, like, Hero's Downfall costs the same mana, even if you're not using Phyrexian mana, and it kills almost everything. And this card's going to kill almost everything in Limited. So, like, I don't know if I would want to always play this card in other colors unless I'm short removal, but you probably still do.
I still would.
Yeah.
Because I like removal. I think because it's so versatile. It doesn't matter. You know, you say, all right, I will trade my 4 life for whatever thing is going on over there.
Yeah.
And it's almost always worth it for me, at least.
No, I agree. Like, it's tough to not play this card. So I think every deck's going to play it, and this is a card you're going to have to look out for because anyone that opens it in 6-pack, even if they're not playing black, has the ability to be playing Dismember.
Exactly. Dread Drone. Yeah.
I love this card.
I
It's
love this
bad. It doesn't trade well, but at the end of the day, you get a bunch of guys to like help like accelerate you, chump blockers, sack outlets for your Bloodthorn vampires. Like there's just this weird thing about these drone creatures and these Eldrazi spawn that like you can use them for Eldrazi, you can use them for sack outlets.
Yep.
Like they're just sweet. I love them.
They fit in a bunch of different places, and it just brings back all that sweet nostalgia for ROE Limited because this card was great in it, and it was awesome. There's all these walls and stuff, and no one was running like 1/1s or 2/1s or whatever in that format. So this card actually got to do some work in now in a format that does have 1/1s and 2/1s and things. It's not quite as good, but that's okay because part of it you can just say, well, this is some of my mana acceleration to let me play my really stupidly expensive stuff like Artisan of Kozilek or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, good card, but not like I don't know how early you pick it. I guess it depends on how themed you are at that point.
It lets you play a Crusher the next turn.
Right.
As long as you have another land drop, you can play a Crusher. So
right.
yeah, it's another theme card. Like this whole set it's not like a regular core set or even like these are the cards that you first pick. Like you always have to take the Arc Lightning.
Right.
You know, no matter what deck you are, you want Arc Lightning. Like
Sure.
that's not really how this format plays out. Like everything is so synergy based that people are going to fall into their archetypes, and that's really what they want Modern Master to be is like limited decks that feel more like constructed decks.
And that's why it feels like so cube-like, basically, because all cube is you build your own format, and all they did was they took Modern and all these cards and they kind of built their own format. Now, in some cases, they had to reprint stuff that doesn't like make sense, like Daybreak Coronet, for example. It only makes sense because they're trying to, they're just trying to give you. Well, they also print Kiki Jiki, but
but they didn't print any copies for either of those. Yeah,
correct. But but ultimately, it's like, well, why is this card here? Well, that's weird, and they're trying to give it to you because it's Modern. But the rest of it is really like, here's all your synergies, figure out where your deck is at, and then you'll know how good Dread Drone is. So we can't say like you got to pick it early or you got to pick it late. You got to pick it based on what you already have or what you're trying to do.
no, you got it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Dusk Hunter Bat. For 2 mana, you get your 1/1 bloodthirsty flying bat thingy-mabob. Now, this is on the very aggro scale.
This is the Fire Slinger. Is that the little goblin? Is it Fire Slinger Goblin?
Think so.
Is that we'll get to it in the next video. But there's just the 1/1 for 1 that taps to deal 1 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's this deck. Like if you have a bunch of Fire Slingers, you draft as many Dusk Hunter Bats.
Tap to deal 1 damage to the player. Yeah.
And the Berserker or whatever it's called, we'll get to him in red too. Colorless red, 1/1, and he becomes a 3/3.
Stormbreaker, I think.
Yeah.
Or something. Regardless, but yeah, this is the Bloodthirst deck, right?
Yeah, there's just a ton of Bloodthirst in the set. You want as many Fire Slinger Goblins as possible, and that's your deck, and you have fun just doing the same thing over and over again, trying to get as many Lightning Bolts as possible, some Brute Forces, hyper aggressive, no 4-drops, like 1 through 3, 16 lands, just beat them down.
Get you. And like, because black just doesn't get a 2-mana 2/2 flyer. They just don't. Like, because in order to get a black 2/2 flyer for 2, you have to work for it. You know, they just won't give it to you. But they will give it to you if you sort of put it in the right shell in the right deck. And this is sort of the other angle to black, which is like super aggressive, get them. And then the other angle is sort of the sacrifice stuff and make that work with the soul shift things and whatnot. So if you're in that deck, as I think you're going to hear sort of a lot as we go through the rest of the colors, you know, like then this is the kind of card that you're looking for, because you're looking for very low casting cost stuff that's able to get in a lot of damage early. Indrixar, Master Breeder.
Here's a fun fact about this card. I have never seen it without having to read it. Now, I've read this like 3 times since Modern Masters come out, but I always forget what it does. It's like, all right, actually, I think I can do it. It's whenever you cast a non-creature spell.
Nope.
Any spell?
Nope.
Creature
spell.
A creature spell.
Yep.
I was wrong. All right. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you get equal to mana cost that amount of thralls.
Yep.
And once you have 7 or more thralls, you sacrifice this creature.
How big are the thralls?
They're 1/1s.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So if you control 7 of those guys, you got to sack him. Otherwise, he's a 5-mana 2/2. So you really want to kind of make him be sacked at some point. But obviously, you want to kind of get in and then play.
Well, I mean, you can always get up to 6 and then sacrifice to make new creatures with like the other stuff. This is like your bomb end game for the sack outlet deck.
Exactly. This is the card that you were absolutely hoping to open. This is one of those cards that you could first pick and say, I am the sacrifice outlet deck now. I have the best rare that's going to make me as many creatures as possible. You know, apart from like Bitter Blossom, one of the best ways to make creatures in the entire set. And so you can kind of manipulate it because you can always stay into that 7. But if at worst you play like some huge creature, you know, some 6-drop and make 6.
Like a Mole Drifter for 3 mana and get 5 tokens.
Yeah. And then you do it again because you death denied it back. And so then you have 10 thralls and like, oh, I had to sacrifice my dude, but now I got 10
But then you death deny that back
no!
after they always does.
You death deny number 2.
Best card in the set, death denied. Figured it out.
But seriously, this is the build around the rare, and you know, this is one of those cards that people kind of called out, and they were just like, I open this as a rare, and I'm gonna be so disappointed. And it's like, man, if you open this in draft, you're gonna be fist pumping. Like this is
this is a decent card in sealed.
Yeah,
like
powerful stuff.
It's good. Yeah, this card is very good because think of how annoying it is when your opponents like just have a token generator. Like they're just annoying because you have to either kill that thing or beat through in the air. But like this just gives so many chump blockers and so many like. You know, like if they have 6 tokens and they attack into your like 3 creatures, like do you even block all 3? Because then what if their card is a 3-drop?
Right.
Like you want to leave them with 4 so they lose their guy. Like there's just all these weird math situations that this guy will bring, and I think the card's very good.
Card is super good. It's also easily splashable. Like it doesn't even need black creature spells; it just needs any creature spell, so you can easily splash for it. Like card is very, very powerful. A lot of options there. Ghostly Changeling, man, I love Changelings. I love Changeling. I love the ability. I can't wait for another tribal block. I thought that Lorwyn was super fun.
Yep.
You know, this card is super sweet. I mean, it doesn't do much. It's just like a black sort of filler aggro card thing.
It's a spirit.
But it's all the things.
Sag it.
You sure can. You're devouring greed.
Yeah.
Just like what 7 years ago or whatever. Whenever Kamigawa came out. But
7? Was
10?
it? It's closer to 10. It might be 9. God, yeah, we've been playing for so many years.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah, it's probably 10 years at least. And regardless, I love Changelings. I thought it was a super cool mechanic from Lorwyn. You know, again, this is sort of an aggro filler type thing, but you know, hey, when you need a certain creature type, it is your creature type.
And shade abilities are always good and limited because when you flood out, you don't feel like you're flooding out because you always have something to do with your mana.
Exactly.
And that's like the biggest thing about limited Magic sometimes. It's like, yeah, games get over real fast. Sometimes bombs win. But it's whoever has things to do with their mana in the late game usually ends up winning because they're just utilizing their resources better. And that's what changed, or the Shade's always ended up doing. This doesn't actually say Shade on it anywhere.
No, I mean, well, but it is
because it's a changeling. Oh,
but
it is a Shade,
though.
yeah.
Just like it's a spirit.
Yeah.
Today
Also a goat.
Today we learned. Grim Affliction. Woo! So this is removal-ish. This is another one of those cards. Like Proliferate kind of puts you back in that graft type stuff that's kind of going on, the charge counter stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is a card that is potentially very powerful or just kind of bad.
It can be one of the best things you ever do, or just dead weight.
Yeah.
Get it?
Oh! This guy, man, you're on fire, dude. You're on fire. Grim Affliction, though, like obviously in an infect format, the card was really, really good. In this format, not quite so good. And when we're sort of back to that dread droney, you know, if your deck's doing a lot of counter, charge counter, wither, you know, type of stuff, then this is a really sweet card. And if not, you're just giving something -2/-2.
Yeah, I mean it's not the best, but yeah, like it's one of those cards that you're gonna want at the end of like your 22nd, 23rd. I mean, it's not even that bad. Like, you know,
it's not that bad. It's removable at the end of the day.
It is removable at the end of the day. And then when you have all of these charges and counters in certain ways, or wither creatures, like the effects can just snowball out of control. Like Proliferate can just give you, like, this card is like cost 3 mana, but could be potentially like 7 or 8 mana's worth of effects by like just
if you are the Proliferate deck, basically, if you will. I mean, this card is one of those, like, you know, pack 3. You're looking to open a card like this. You know, you want something like this because your deck, you're so full of all those counters and grafts and whatever that, you know, Grim Affliction kind of goes over the top. Yeah. And if you're not, you're like, this is kind of mediocre removal, and I don't even know if I need it or not.
And with Everflowing Chalice based decks, like every time you play a turn 2 Everflowing Chalice, which will make it so powerful that every time you proliferate, it's also just a rampant growth, and that's like really cool and like can really help get these Eldrazi out. And like that might be one of the theme decks that we're not seeing, like just the draft every Everflowing Chalice, all the proliferate, and then all of the big guys, because you just keep proliferating and getting your Everflowing Chalice so high that you can finally cast your Eldrazi.
I would be totally okay with that.
Yeah, it seems great.
That seems fantastic. So yeah, card with a lot of potential, or a lot of not potential. Insteel Infection.
This is just terrible. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. I hated it the first time around. I hate it now.
It was bad. It stayed bad.
You played it when you had to, and it was like, yes, it cycles for 4 mana. Yes, you get to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. Yes, but it's 4 mana for -1/-1 draw a card.
I mean, if you're in the Proliferate deck, probably still not. You just paid 4 mana.
It's just slow and
slow as crap.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of meant to be. You know, it's like it's designed to be bad. Yes, if it works, if it works in this Proliferate charge counter graph deck, that's awesome. But overall, not. It's just, what is it doing for 4 mana?
I mean, it's putting a -1/-1 counter on the target creature, and you draw a card. It's right there.
That's what you got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Midnight Banshee. I believe, as I recall, this has been downgraded from Mythic to Rare. I could be incorrect on that.
I mean, I would be fine at
no Wither. This was Shadowmoor. They didn't even have Mythics back then. Okay, so fair enough. It was just
Shadow. Yeah, they were before Lorwyn. Yeah, Shadowmoor was before.
Anyway, all I know is this thing is a huge bomb, and was completely nuts back then when you could play it on basically any turn you could play it. It's fantastic. It destroys your opponent's creatures really quickly. They want to kill this thing very fast.
It's also a spirit you can sack it.
Right? The Devouring Greed. What? If you're sacking this, something went wrong, or you're winning. You have to be winning if you're sacrificing this card to Devouring Greed. But like, it is super powerful, crazy hard to deal with. I love everything about it.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about Proliferate, but that's one of like Black's themes, like sacking and Proliferate, because there's so many like Wither type effects in the set, or in this color. And if you just put a counter on everything and then proliferate once, that's -2/-2. That, like, we're talking Elvish Norn at the moment. Like,
we're talking Elvish Norn, Massacre Worm. You know what I mean? Like, things are happening that are winning you the game at that point.
Yeah, we got to work for ours in Black, but because they don't get the sweet cards like White does.
Yeah, but the synergies, when they start going off, man.
Yeah,
it just gets gross.
It snowballs. Yeah.
Yep. Pretty awesome. Super cool. Easy first pick to put you in Black. Yada yada. Nameless Inversion. The best removal in Lorwyn block.
It was so good.
It was just everywhere. And this was the card, and I'm glad we kind of got the background. I was going to speak a little bit during Bitter Blossom that the what I would describe as what we would call today Pro Tour Morningtide, which was Hollywood, Pro Tour Hollywood, was won by Charles Gindy with his elf deck. And it was a green-black elf deck that, you know, that beat, I think it was Merfolk or something in the finals.
It had a very easy final matchup, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of crushed him. But anyway, Nameless Inversion was a big deal because there were certain cards that wanted you to reveal a creature type.
No, it was tough. He wasn't supposed to win the finals. It was against Revelark.
Revelar, okay.
It was Revelark in the finals.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure it was Revelark. He beat like Merfolk earlier in the tournament.
Sure.
Because Revelark beat Shuhei in top 4. I remember this.
Well, yeah, and this was one of the. I mean, like
Paulo got crushed by Shuhei in top 8.
Yeah.
It was from the nut draw of the turn 3 Garrick Untapped Bitter Blossom Go.
So yeah, green black elves were very, very powerful. It was sort of the first time that that planeswalkers really got to shine, like, you know, and really made a huge impact. Like they did well, obviously, but then by that point it was really obvious. That was when like Super Friends and stuff were coming back, and people were like, I don't care, I'll just put all the planeswalkers in one deck because they're all great.
That's a couple of years later.
Well, no, that was the Jace guys, but there was the first version of like put all the planeswalkers in a deck. It actually showed up in some of the side events at that tour.
Oh, really?
At that Pro Tour. I know, because I was hanging out trying to get stories.
Huh.
And that was one of them. It's like someone was playing like with all the Chandra and Garrick and Jace, like all in the same deck, and they were doing really well because no one knew how to deal with planeswalkers back then.
Just attack them.
And they just died. Well, they didn't know that, Brad. They just died. It was really cool. But anyway, Nameless Inversion is super awesome, and loses all creature types doesn't really matter. It was really a thing that Lorwyn cared about as more than anything, and took away the bonuses that, you know, all your elves get X or all your merfolk get Y. But
it did help. It did help a couple times in certain situations. But mainly, like, the best thing about this card is it is a removal spell and a pump spell.
And a pump spell. I was about to get to that.
So good.
That's the cool part because it's sort of both halves whenever you need it.
Yeah. Like, you can just attack your opponent with your 5/5 dragon and they're at 8 life, and they're like, take it. And you're like, Nameless Inversion. Yes, you have an 8/2. Yes, they might be able to, you know, lightning bolt and kill it if they have a lightning bolt. But you can sometimes play around that. But if they're tapped out, you can just kill them with this card. And so that's what makes this a really good early game and late game spell. It bridges that gap, and you play every copy. It's just so good.
It is super good. You can pick it early because it's fantastic. Necro Skitter was my spoiler for Modern Masters.
That's sweet. I think that card did absolutely nothing ever.
It did absolutely nothing. So I don't really understand Wizards. What's up? Me and you. We can sit down and talk about.
I'm pretty sure what's up is you still bring stuff up from 7 years ago.
Shut up, man! I like it.
Let's talk about all the awesome things Wizards have done for you.
Yes,
let's do some of that.
Dude, they gave me a Planeswalker one time. That was really sweet. They gave me Boros
They
Charm.
made a game that you turn into a career. That's something awesome they did.
They did kind of give me this career thing, which I kind of am very
appreciative.
Yeah. So one spoiler that doesn't make sense to me was fine as whatever, because you guys are awesome. But still, Necro Skitter was a cool rare from back in the day. Obviously does a ton with, you know, like creatures with -1/-1 counters, with your proliferation and stuff. Like, you can go a little nuts with this card.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just there's just going to be awesome interactions with this card all the time.
How Instill Infection is ever going to get there with any combination of the cards we've just been looking at? Midnight Banshee, Necro Skitter. Is there a point where you're like, okay,
I mean, yeah, you can play the card.
Get there.
It's not bad. It's not like if I look through a deck and, like, it's not a card you'd have to defend, but it's not something I'm excited about.
Sure.
And there's so many cool cards in this format that do better things. The problem with Necro Skitter is, like, in the limited format when you had this, you also had Incremental Blight.
Yeah.
And you don't have Incremental Blight anymore.
Woo! Yeah, that was real fair.
Like, they have the Incremental Growth, or not Growth, but they have the Beast one, Bestial Menace. That one that's pretty much kind of like the opposite.
It's pretty much the opposite, yeah. But Necro Skitter, while it doesn't have that, there is a lot of enablers in this set, and they made it that way. Like, this card can do some stuff. Obviously, no one really wants to block it because if you have a pump spell, they're going to lose their creature and you're going to get it, and so on and so forth. But it's a powerful rare that really works in that synergistic proliferate wither deck.
Yeah. No, this card's a bomb. Like, it'll be tough when I look at an opening pack and not want to take this card because it is so powerful. Its stats are great. 1/4 for 3 doesn't sound that great, but Wither is a unique effect that is better than regular damage. Like, it's like there's value in that. It's like a 1.5, you know, power creature. Like, the card is really good.
I miss Wither.
Well, you get to play with it again.
I know. Wither is a super cool mechanic, and it's super powerful, and it's nice that those who weren't around for Shadowmoor can kind of come back and be like, oh, yeah, this is really sweet.
And you don't have to play that terrible limited format where, like, Mono Red and Everflowing Chalice. Yeah. Mono Red was pretty solved at the end. Like, you could even force decks. Like, the only time a Mono Red deck didn't win a draft was when, like, too many people drafted it.
Yep.
It was just kind of a frustrating format. I didn't like it that much. It was just kind of solved.
It was neat, you know, with all the hybrid mana stuff, but, like, it was one of those where, like, you know, just because you have everything a hybrid mana doesn't mean everything's more interesting.
The only cool thing the coolest thing about that format, if we're, you know, reminiscing, is the times where I'd be like a green and red deck, but I had a, like, a completely different dual land. What was the dual lands in that format? I can't remember.
Well, there was the filter lands.
Not the filter
But
lands.
in terms of like the common ones or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember what.
I think they came in and played tapped or something. I can't remember.
And they added
exactly.
2 different colors, I think.
Maybe.
I don't remember, but I remember like playing completely off-color dual lands. And I don't remember which ones they are, but like completely off-color.
Sure.
Like they added like blue and white in my green and red deck, but that was to help splash like my triple like colored creatures and stuff. I just loved it.
It was neat. I liked it. You guys would like it too. But...
Oh, no. Never mind. There wasn't dual lands. I would play an island in my green and red deck because I had a green-blue guy and a red-blue guy.
I see.
And so I would play like islands to bridge those cards together.
Sure.
It was probably bad.
I don't remember.
I'm going to keep interrupting Evan.
He is. Plagued Rusalka. Thank you. Was a card I recall from Guild Pact, I think it was. And there was, what was the red one?
Scorch Rusalka.
Scorch Rusalka, yeah. I love the Rusalkas, obviously. Here's another sacrifice outlet that you have.
And this was uncommon, down to common.
Yeah, which is nice because ultimately it's not that powerful in effect. It never really was, but obviously, you know, when you have as many tokens and you're able to pay all the black and kill all their dudes or shrink them, it makes combat really difficult. And that's the power in this card. That's why you want to pay, you know, or that's why you want to play a 1-mana 1/1 in this format, is because it does so much for you as a result.
Yeah, you got it. That's all I got. It's another sack outlet. You said it all, man. I'm not going to repeat you.
Fine, don't. Profane Command. Now this was
give all my, what was it? Give all my available targets.
Oh God.
Fear.
Oh, is that where we're at here?
We always go there.
All legal targets.
All
fear.
legal targets fear.
There was a very famous play by a very famous magician who had a what was the Chameleon Colossus?
Yeah.
And it had protection from black. And the only way he could win is if his opponent thought that he could target it with Profane Command and give it fear. Well, you can't because it has protection from black. And so he plays Profane Command and says, I give all of my legal targets fear. And that guy, his opponent, thought that meant everything he had. And then he swung out and he lost because he thought that effect and it didn't. Something controversy, which, or whatever. But the thing about Profane Command that I recall is Profane Command and Cryptic Command were both spoiled by Aaron Forsythe to dispel the rumor mill that had spoiled all the mythics in Modern Masters 2015 and a bunch of the rares. And so he spoiled both commands with the hashtag only 2 commands or something. Yeah. Just so he could just be like, bleh, bleh, this was totally wrong, and that list was totally wrong. But regardless, what I'm kind of getting around to is this is an incredible limited bomb. It is unbelievably powerful. It is easily first pickable, and it takes over the game basically whenever you cast it.
Yeah, I don't know what I want to open at GP Vegas, but if I could just like lock in a Profane Command, I would probably like pay double the entry fee. Like the card is just, it's so good. It wins so many games, especially in sealed. Like in limited, it does different modes. Like in sealed, the like drain you fear is the best modes.
Right.
And in like draft formats, it's like kill your guy, get my guy back.
Right.
Those are all the modes, right?
I
haven't played this in a long time.
Oh yeah, it's just just like every single mode is crazy good, and it just wins games. It just wins games by itself. Like, you know, what's better than Cryptic Command? Well, Profane Command and Limited, because it's just bonkers.
It is a busted limited card. Like, if you've never played with this card, you know, draft this format until you get to, because it just is so dirty. It's unbelievable.
It is filthy.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
There was an old block right when Lorwyn came out. I played block constructed a ton back then, and there was just a like 4 Profane Command, 4 Cryptic Command, 4 Jace, like 4 Liliana, 4 Meldred, 4 Treepmaw deck.
Jeez.
Like that was like the greatest deck of all time. You just got all the value. That's all you played with.
That was when you played Fertile Ground, and I remember. You remember the Fertile Ground deck?
I do remember that, but this was
had
just
like
black. It was just blue black.
Yeah.
But yeah, Profane Command used to be in the Elf deck, the one we were talking about with Gendy. Like, there's a lot of cards from that tournament in this set, actually.
There really are.
In the black.
Particularly in black. I was when black had some really good cards back then.
Yeah.
And they were printing a lot for you. Yeah. So this card is super good in all the cubes.
Where's our Underworld connections and our pack rats?
I know, right? Let's just put it all together. Puppeteer Click.
Speaking of Lorwyn busted limited bombs.
This is a huge busted limited bomb. The fact that you get to take a creature from their graveyard that gains haste and you exile it, well, that's fine, because you usually only need kind of one shot if they had enter the battlefield effects. You steal their Mold Drifter.
It's really
their
gross.
Mold Drifter. Say thanks. You draw cards and you attack with it and it goes away. So even they can't get it back with their own death denied.
Yeah, I mean, the card is really gross, and it does some really interesting things. Even with all these sack outlets too, like you can play it and sack it immediately to get 2 of their guys to get haste and kill them on the spot. Like the card just, it doesn't play like a dragon, like something that you just like cast and win the game with.
Right.
It takes a little finesse to win with a puppeteer click, but it's out there. You can do it. And the art, it's one of my favorite pieces of art too.
I absolutely love the art. It is crazy, crazy powerful. It may not look like much as a 3/2 and all, but anyway, it's still a 3/2 with evasion. That's important, and that effect is crazy good, and you get it twice.
Yeah, Persist was really, really good too. Like Undying is obviously better, but because Undying is a better effect, Persist cards had better abilities.
Yeah, they were just ridiculous.
Yeah, and this card's just phenomenal.
Yep, it's easily first pickable, crazy powerful, and you'll love it. Yeah. Reassembling Skeleton, speaking of the sacrifice outlet, and what do you want to do with it? Well, this is the type of card that you're able to, your Bloodthorn Vampire gets in, and you're like, okay, sack it, 1 black and colorless, put it back, sack it, all right, 1 black and colorless, sack it. This is the card that lets you kind of churn through those things. Plague Rusalka at that point is 3 mana, -1/-1. Yeah. Well, really, 1 black, -1/-1, 3 mana, -2/-2, basically, yeah. So on and so forth. So this is the type of card you want in those types of decks, and this is why this card is uncommon, because those decks would be pretty nuts if they had access to this all the time.
Yeah, and it's one of the only cards ever printed that recurs from your graveyard easily, that can block.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have the 2 power that we see a lot of cards do, but like in standard, and we have Bloodghast, the warrior, I can't remember the warrior's name. Bloodsoaked Champion.
Bloodsoaked Champion.
Yeah, like a lot of these effects have not been able to block, but Reassembling Skeletons is, because it's just from Mario, right? Like this card is just straight out of like Super Mario.
It's just those Koopa or whatever that die and then they come back together, the turtles or whatever. Yeah, but like again, you're not wrong, because what happens is if something can recur from the graveyard over and over again, well then it's really annoying as a blocker, because they just have like an infinite chump blocker forever. Well, coming into play tapped means they have to pay a black and a colorless and then wait until their turn comes around and untap it. Maybe do something with it. If they kill it, you bring it back. It comes into play tap. They have to wait. So like there's that very crucial entering the battlefield tap part that doesn't let it be annoying, basically.
But you can things can get out of control if you don't have other things to do. So sometimes the Reassembling Skeleton just sits in the graveyard for a long time because you don't have the extra mana, but later in the game it can help stop like a random ground pounder that doesn't have trample. So I've always liked this card. It really works well in the sack outlet deck. You're going to want cards like this a lot, and that's all I got about it.
Yeah, at the end of their turn, like that's really where you're just like, oh, by the way, I've got 2 mana open. Let's get my skeleton back. Yep. You should always be doing that.
But you have to do the sound effect from Mario.
Scavenger Drake. This is a card that looks a little innocuous, but think about all the sacrifice cards that we've been through. Think about all the token generators that we've shown. This card is really, really good.
Yeah, we've already had Bloodflies. We just got done in a format that had a pretty decent creature just like Scavenger Drake, and this was like the first of its kind. They had this one that had flying, and then the green one that we'll get to that had Shroud.
Sure.
And these were like the first ones that they went with, and they did do a lot of good work. They're high variance Magic cards. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're bad.
Right. They have the Crocodile in here?
They have the Crocodile, yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, these cards, I know they don't maybe not look super powerful, but this card can get completely out of hand. I mean, like crazy nuts. I mean, Bloodflies is a thing that people who've played recently can experience, but if you've not played with these types of cards, yeah, it gets nuts. And they've given you tons of enablers. It's not just you're trading through combat so it gets a little bigger. No. You have the ability to like do combo things with the Reassembling Skeleton and the other sack outlets and Bloodthorn Vampires and whatever to make this creature absolutely massive.
Yes, tons of synergy.
Lots of synergy. And
then you sack your board, then the Otherworldly Journey, and you're like,
that's where you
get one counter. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you went on that journey. Yep. See you later. But super good. And of course, depending on where you're at in your draft, in that deck basically is how good this card is going to be. But even at the end of the day, if it's just combat damage that you're kind of trading with, it's still very good.
How is that a drake? It looks like a dragon.
Well, like little dragons or drakes.
Is that what it is? I thought they were fledglings. Those are little dragons?
Itty bitty.
Wow, they just have that many names?
I don't know. What am I, a dragon scientist?
You should be.
Jeez. Scuttling Death. Now, here's a creature that brings back all the memories.
All right. Well,
here we go.
Take a nap real quick.
All right.
You go back
Look, Pepperidge Farm remembers Scuttling Death. All right, it does. I'm telling you, this card was sweet back in the day. You could chain your soul shift guys together. This is the card that lets you do that stuff. Sacrificing it to give -1/-1 actually kind of did something back then. Not so much now. At least you can sack it for free. Shut, Brad. Seriously, card was sweet. It dealt damage. It was a 5/2. It's a thing. Like, it was all this theme because it's the weirdest freaking thing ever, which was just what Kamigawa was a big pile of candles walking, and then this thing with its weird mouthy maw thing, which is really strange. And it's also a spirit for devouring greed. And as a result, you probably don't want to play with this very much because it's not very good.
Oh, we're done? Okay.
And we're done.
Awesome.
Shrivel. Tell me about Shrivel.
I don't know.
I
don't know why it's here. It stops Spectral's Procession because that card is so powerful.
That card is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no Beseech the Queen, but you know what is.
I don't know why we just didn't go with like Infest or not Infest. We would have to go Drownenstar because Infest isn't.
Well, and actually, this is the thing because the way we filmed this, we actually got to get some feedback on our first videos before we filmed these. The reasons that Oblivion Ring was in here and not Banishing Light is because these only cover sets up to Zendikar block.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Banishing Light didn't come out until
I
Theros.
forgot about
so that's
those
why
rules,
they couldn't fix it. So that's why we don't see cards like Drown in Sorrow here, or cards that you would expect to see as a result. But no,
we could really research these a little bit better, or we just wing it.
I don't know if they're watching this because we're highly researched professionals.
What else would they do? It's not for our handsomely good looks.
Says you, Brad. Anyway, Shrivel's bad. I don't like it. It's crap. Sickle Ripper. This is a really cool card. And again, Wither is more powerful than a lot of people give it credit for because it's permanent, which means if they just chump block it, they're going to have their creature affected forever, or they're going to be able to trade, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, getting their 5/5 down to a 3/3, that's a big deal.
Yeah, you can't, it kind of breaks the rules of Magic where you can't just attack
blindly.
You're blind,
or
like random
blindly.
2/1s into their 5/5s. It doesn't do anything. So like a card like Sickle Ripper, though, you can attack into their 5/5, they block, they make it 3/3, and then you play a 4/4.
Right.
You're like, gotcha.
Nice. It's good on it's good on offense and defense because when they have a 5/5 and you have a Sickle Ripper hanging out, they don't want to just make their creature smaller. They want to answer your dude.
And then at the fear of like proliferate as well.
Yeah, proliferate obviously works really well with this guy. This is the 2-drop you want in that type of proliferate, wither, graft deck or whatever. Like this is a super sweet card. It's more powerful than I think a lot of people give it credit for, and as a result, you should almost always play it because you need bears, and this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, I think that this card is very good.
Sign in Blood.
So is this, even though I have no idea why this card has never seen any constructed play this season. It's just so weird to me.
Yeah, it just never got there, and I guess it was always Read the Bones was kind of the better one because you got to scry, I guess.
People forgot that this is still in the format.
Much like Dre.
Yeah.
Oh, got in my one Dre reference per set review. Sweet. Got in there.
Heaven just has this
whenever you forget about something,
yeah,
that's where we're at.
A reusable checklist of things that we have to just get in every
It's my whole life, dude. It's like whenever certain things happen, I go to like my old standby jokes. They're always there. They're terrible, but
we're getting to the age now like that people will be like, forgot about Dre. I don't even know who Dre is.
Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Sign in Blood is fantastic. Card is great. You pretty much always play it. It's always worth it to pay 2 life and draw 2 cards. It's better in sealed because that format's a little bit slower and more bomb heavy, and this draws you your bombs or gets you to your removal to answer
this is just
theirs.
really good. Limited, any form of limited.
It's just great.
It's actually good in constructed too. I just don't know why it doesn't see play. It's mostly because like the tricolor cards are just overpowering.
Yeah.
All the other like.
And the mana bases can't really handle double black versus black and 2 colors.
Yeah. All right. I have to go back to a mono black deck and see what it looks like. We have Tazgar, Sign in Blood, Duress, Thoughtseize,
Murderous Cut.
Hero's
Downfall is great.
Downfall. Yeah, I gotta look back at something like that. Maybe black white.
Spread the Sickness. All right. So it says destroy target creature. So that's what it does. If it proliferates, that's great. It doesn't matter because if you're playing a deck that has swamps in it, you're going to play this card. It destroys a thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a non-black thing. It doesn't have to be a certain creature type. It just destroys a thing.
And this got ticked up, right? This was a common back then?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. Like all 5 mana removal was common, but like this card is really good. And it's around the time that you've built up a board to proliferate, right?
Right. By the time you're at 5 mana, you should have plenty of stuff that's going to trigger off this.
At least 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And you get to kill their creature and do some awesome stuff. Bomb, awesome card. I love it.
Easily first pickable or early pickable. Surgical Extraction, not so much in limited. Not very good. A card reprinted for constructed.
Yeah, for constructed, even though people play cards like this so often. It's
God, don't.
It is like this and Thought Hemorrhage.
Like cranial extraction type stuff.
Yeah, like they just always play them way too often. Like you play these cards to kill graveyard-based decks that like will put something in their graveyard and like will interact from that point. But like I've had too many times where people were just like, I remand and they're like, steal your remands now, and I'm like, okay.
Don't do that. Don't play this card in limited unless you have like an unbelievably ridiculous deck against you that they somehow got 4 or 5 of X. and that you know that that's a thing against you or whatever.
Oh, no.
I just don't. I just can't.
You just put it in your binder right away.
You just go. This
Just so
is a
you
card
don't
worth
put it in
money.
your deck ever.
God, don't.
Yeah, it's terrible and limited. This might be the worst card to open in a sealed pool.
Yes, in a sealed pool, 100%.
It might just be like the worst card in the set.
Right, and you're drafting, you're just money drafting. You're like, oh look, dollars.
Yeah, but it's less than all the other money rares. That
it really is. It's good though. I'm glad that it's being reprinted. And
well,
I think
because
the
everyone
artwork
plays it too much.
The artwork is absolutely brilliant. I've loved this image ever since I saw it. Like it was in like a collection of like best of art thing I saw. Like it's super sweet, amazing picture, super cool effect. I love the idea of it and constructed. But man, you go towards limit with this thing, you just run. You just don't. Thief of Hope, man, here we go. All right, so back in Kamigawa, when I was drafting all my spirits and stuff, and I was playing all my arcane spells and whatnot, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Magic's the best game ever. I didn't really have an understanding because I hadn't played in so long as to how ridiculously terrible what I was doing with this game of ours that we loved because they made it really weird and dumb for a while. And Thief of Hope was just one of the best cards in the limited format in Kamigawa because everything was making them drain. Yeah. And that's super powerful. And it had Soul Shift. It's like, oh, BT dubs. You got back your Kami of Ancient Law when it died. Yeah, and there's a lot of sweet spirits that were from other sets that are in this now. So Soul Shift for 2, in that format wasn't the best, but in this format you can do some things like a Drowned Rusalka. Yeah, which is actually a spirit. So there's a lot of like really cool, like, oh, that was from another set. It kind of keys off that. And really this card just like gains you value over time. This is a card that can change how you're drafting in the middle of it and also can change sort of what your deck makeup is in sealed because Thief of Hope, and particularly 2 Thief of Hopes, is just Thieves of Hope, if you will, is really, really powerful. Just crazy good. And to go along with just never understanding the art, if you just like notice that this thing is so long, like it just spans, it keeps going forever, and like just one of its like little tiny hands is like clenched. You know what it's got? Hope. Oh, it's grabbed some hope. Stole it. I've just never understood this set at all. Vampire Lacerator, because in Zendikar, they decided that vampires having the what's that 5 mana Singer Vampire ability, whenever a creature that it deals damage to dies, it gets a +1/+1 counter. That never happens. Ever. It just doesn't. Because what do? You just don't block them. You don't ever give them that counter. Yeah. So as a result, they were like, well, let's try to make vampires cool. Well, that is, if an opponent has 10 or less life, then you sort of have a trigger that happens on that. Some of your cards get bonuses when that happens. Some have negative effects like Vampire Lacerator until they're at 10 life. Exactly. So yeah, like it's pretty much a half-life. Like they really went off the theme of half-life. Like you just like once they can the blood is running, like they smell weakness, all the vampires just get better, get stronger. Yeah. And obviously this is sort of in your black-red aggro. Get them as soon as you can. Keep your converted mana cost low. This is a 1 mana 2/2. That's exactly what you want to do on turn 1. This is a card that starts the beats and keeps them going. Yep. And that's what you want to be doing in those types of decks. And if you're anywhere sort of control-ish or slow, not what you want to be doing. Nope. Unless you want to, be like me, where I had that along with Conley Heart Expeditions, Haros, and the Elk that landfall gain 2 life. That was my top 8 limited deck in a GP. Combo. Proud of yourself, sir. Vampire Outcast. 4 mana 2/2s with Bloodthirst 2. You really want to trigger that Bloodthirst. This card is disgustingly overpowered. It was so good in that limited format. Like, so good. This was just like this was what people call mythic uncommons. Like they're not really mythic value. Much like Elite Scale Guard is like considered a mythic uncommon. That card's nuts. Yeah, but so is Vampire Outcast back then. Like this, a 4/4 lifelinker is just absurd. It's crazy good. I mean, like obviously it's bringing you back in the race. It's very powerful by itself. It's a 4 mana 4/4, so it's already sort of like not only like really, I wouldn't say quite above the curve, but definitely at the very top of it. Well, and also like a 4/4 for 4. What's the first thing you think of when I said a 4/4 for 4? What color did you think? Green. Exactly. Does green the next turn get to kill their creatures? Right. No, they have to bash through those creatures. Black can just immediately untap and kill their things and attack for 4. Kill your thing that could actually kill this, and then get you for 4, gain 4 life, and then you have this 4/4 you have to deal with this great ability that's going to keep them in the game. Like, ugh. Card is very first pickable. It's very early. It's part of like the black-red aggressive deck, but it can go in any other deck that's like aggressively themed. Yeah, and this is sort of like your top of the curve on a straight aggro deck, and that's okay. No, it's great. That's fantastic. So good. Waking Nightmare. All right, so they couldn't just put Mind Rot because they wanted to have arcane trigger things. Well, Mind Rot wasn't printed in those 5 years. But it's fine. I mean, you know why they printed. You know why they chose this one. I'm so glad they didn't overcost it because that's what they normally did back then for all the Kamigawa spells.
Yeah.
If it was arcane, you had to pay more for it because reasons. Thanks.
Because it had special abilities.
Yeah, the specialist.
It's called an arcane spell.
It had a word on it. That's what it had. You had to pay more mana for that word.
I mean,
but look, yeah, but see, this is the type of stuff that you start getting those weird little bonuses of you played a spirit or arcane spell like Thief of Hope, and like it's pretty powerful when you like drain them for one and you get two of their cards. Like that's really sweet, and it's just it follows the same mind rot review that we have given half a dozen times.
We should just show each one.
Right, it's just like the mind rot, and then the mind rot review, and then the mind rot review, and then the mind rot review.
Good on the draw, bad on the play. Good with removal spells, bad with aggressive decks. Woo!
Thanks. Woo! All right. Agony War.
Whoa. But this card's blue. It's not just black. It's black and blue.
Oh, well, this is the first half of the multicolor.
No.
Yeah.
They have multicolor cards in this set, too?
They do. Wow. So many, we busted them in half.
Yeah.
We're going to do half now. We're going to do half next time. Agony Warp is an insane piece of removal / combat trick. It is nuts.
You can kill 2 creatures in one combat and it feels great.
It's so good. It slices, it dices, it's super duper powerful. It's early pickable, not necessarily first pickable, but
because you don't want to force it to be into 2 colors.
Right. You don't want to marry yourself
for a
with
removal spell.
Yeah, but it's good. If you're anywhere near it and you're a few picks in and you know you're going to be black or you know you're going to be blue, this is a card that can kind of steer you into that other color because it's really good. It's good. I can't stop saying it's good because it's good. Apocalypse Hydra, also very good.
It is okay.
Okay.
I mean, at 7 mana, it's a 10/10. At 6 mana, it's a 4/4. So sad.
There's a divide there.
Yeah.
There is a tipping point. We know where that tipping point is. I mean, if you got your Elvish Norn mana and you got a 10/10 that can start removing counters.
You have all these drones too to like make it super powerful.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that hard to get to 7 mana and make this a 10/10 and then have the ability to smash in with a 10/10 and then pay some mana and just wreck their board.
Yeah, I mean, Hydras are what Hydras do. Like we know what they are. They're mana sinks. You can play them early if you need chump blockers.
Yep.
But I don't know what else to say about a Hydra.
Well, it's good though.
It is a very good card.
It's a very good card. It's very powerful. It's what you want in the red-green aggro deck or the red-green ramp deck. It's exactly what you want, and the picture's amazing.
It is a very sweet picture. They used a lot back then for a lot of their visuals for like
like selling the set and all that stuff, and like having the commercial with all the moving things. Yep. And I mean, it's by Jason Chan, the guy who illustrated Jason the Mind Sculptor.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I wish this was as good as Jason the Mind Sculptor.
I know, right? We'd be kind of freaking out over here. Ashenmoor Gouger. This was a cool card. I always liked this card. It's one of those, because it's a hybrid mana, you had to pay 3 mana. They're able to kind of push it above the curve. It was very much played back in the day in like mono red, black red, obviously. But regardless, as a result, it was very powerful then. It's very powerful now. Yeah. This is exactly the cards you want in black red aggro.
Yeah, it's constructed play. It's like beyond busted. It's first pickable because of how overpowered it is and limited.
Turn 3, this is going to be bigger than whatever they got.
And see, we've seen like all the black cards that are interesting a little bit more on the control spectrum, but red is so pushed aggressive in this format, just so hyper aggressive because like what else? How is red going to compete with all these awesome card advantage, cool spells? So they get under everyone, and Ashenmoor Gouger is one of the cards, or Ashenmoor Gouger is one of the cards that you're going to like be early picking to put you into that deck.
Exactly. Super good, super powerful, just runs over people. Love it. Boros Swiftblade was that card. This is like back from Ravnica block. Yeah, I know. This was when you really had to work for Double Strike. This is when they thought Double Strike was like crazy, crazy good, and you couldn't put it on anything without making them pay for it big time. So in that, equipment-based strategy deck, if you can get enough to make it sweet, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's ultimately it's pretty, it was always underwhelming. I always didn't think it was that
every
good.
Time, yeah.
I remember it was in the Zoo decks or the Zoo Tribal decks for a while because they could, they would do what's the green pump spell that was Domain, the green Domain pump spell.
Oh yeah.
Gaia's Might.
Is
that right?
It might have been Gaia's Might.
It might have been Gaia's Might. Yeah. So Gaia's Might, with this thing, and you're like, you have 4 different land types, so it got +4/+4, and it dealt 10. Like, yeah, you can have these awesome dream scenarios, but at the end of the day, if it just deals like 2 damage and you fought so hard to play a bear, like, meh. I mean, it is in white and red, and there is brute force, which is good.
No, yeah. I mean, the card's fine. But okay. The best thing about Boros Swiftblade is just the feeling of like the nostalgia for me going back to Ravnica. So like, you had Kamigawa block, I had Ravnica block. And Ravnica block, I didn't do anything special. I never went to a tournament. Like, I never played Grand Prix back then. I just sat in front of a computer and drafted it over and over and over again.
Well, see, Ravnica special.
We forced Boris Swiftblade, actually. At the end of the Ravnica format, like, this was like, back in the old days, we were in a clan called Osip Drives Us to School. And it was like Adam Yurchek and Austin Bursavich and my brother. And
Osip Drives Us to School.
Yeah, that was our clan name.
Nice.
We just forced Boros and just had like this like 85% win percentage. Like you just forced the most aggressive deck every single time. And this was like the card that you would like always want to like pick up early.
Absolutely. So, I mean, well, my awesome Ravnica memory was it was released in 2005, as I recall. And it was released on my birthday. The pre-release was my birthday. September 24th, 2005. I was there. And not only did I play in the pre-release for Ravnica, here's why it's special. Me and my friends drove 7 hours to Richmond from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, so we could play in a Star City Games event because I wanted to play in an SCG event.
That's awesome.
Because they were all, they were the bomb back then.
Yeah.
And I met Ted Knutson and I met Pete for the first time and I met, like Benny for the first time, Benny Smith, all these guys.
That's
like,
awesome.
That's sort of, it actually kind of got it started. So,
do you know when my birthday is? Today.
No, it's not. Are you serious?
No. But I just want to see how much
You're
knew
terrible.
me.
I was like, dude, I would have noticed that. Come on.
I have Facebook.
Exactly. I have a social media tool that can tell me so I don't look like the worst friend ever. Okay. So Creekwood Liege is...
This was one of your spoil cards,
yes,
too, right?
This is one of my classic spoilers. This is way back when, like, again, yeah, I'm bad now. No, I was terrible back then. And it's my phrase that I never heard the end of for like 3 to 6 months was it's a call of the herd every turn. Because that's what I said. You got a free call of the herd every turn. And so for, endless, like a year of my life was just like, somebody come by and be like, call the herd every turn. You want to sign it? Like, shut up. God.
And long story short, it saw no play. It was terrible.
0. It was crap. They gave me a crap card, and boy, I fell for it. I was just hook and line and sinker.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've given you some sweet cards. They gave you Wingmate Rock, right?
Yep.
That is, like, now my favorite card right now. Like, I am trying to make Wingmate Rock as good as possible in the format. It has won me so much in the last, like... so, Abza Negra has won me 20 pro points the last 2 events I played in.
Wow.
And a lot of it has to do with Wingmate Rock.
Yeah,
like, most of it.
Card was sweet. Creekwood Liege, not so much.
No, this card, it's good and limited if you're in black or green or deep in either one.
It's very good and limited, but, like, I was kind of, pushing it like, oh, man, constructed, it's going to be crazy good, and it's going to pump all your team, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, not really. And it only makes 1/1, so when they kill this 2/2, all you have is 1/1s left over.
I just feel like, when a new set comes out,
yeah,
you and Ben should just have, like Tom, Ross, and I just come in and we'll just walk you through the set.
All right. Just a little heart to heart. A little this is bad, this is good action.
Yeah, just like how all my set reviews are on spot.
Right, right. We never miss anything.
No.
We never said, anything. Yeah, we were right on Treasure Cruise. We said Treasure Cruise was great. It wasn't. I mean,
speaking of cards that Treasure Cruise would work well with.
Yeah.
No, that's...
What?
Never mind.
What is
I forgot which one this was.
There's
been many guild mages in the past, and I thought that was...
There have been, yes. And either way, Dimir Guildmage is very, very good. It's a huge mana sink, but it does everything you want to do, basically.
Well, when you need a mana sink, it can just be a bear and a blue-black deck that's really easy to cast, can trade, and then late game, you just get to do a lot of awesome stuff with it. It was great back then. It should be great in this limited format because it's just not a card that you need much to get out of. It's just your 2-drop.
Yep, it's a 2-drop that can potentially do incredibly powerful things. Your opponents don't want to go down to 1 card when you have this type of card out because they're just going to lose it. And as a result, if they do have more cards in hand, you're like, whatever, I'm going to draw a card, and I'm going to play some, I'm going to draw some more cards, and that's good for me. So it's good, it's powerful, it's not overpowered, it's not something that's going to push you into blue-black, but it's definitely a card you want in like the black aggressive decks because it's a 2-drop, or the blue-black control decks because it's a great late-game card.
Yeah.
Drooling Grudion. This is from Ravnica.
And this is just, it was always just such a weird card, and now I guess... Like the black sack outlet deck, this is a little bit better.
This card was completely bananas in that limited format.
No, it was good.
It was like nutty. Good.
Yeah, but green black didn't really work well together.
Well, there was a lot of token themes and stuff in that one, and then Rootkin allies and like Scatter the Seeds, which is also in green in here. There's also Scatter the Seeds up in here. Like this is great with token strategies, and I'm still pretty much convinced it's pretty bananas.
It probably is very good in this limited format. It's just back in Ravnica, like like you could draft Obzon in just Ravnica, but once it started getting into the other formats, you never wanted to be black and green because you just didn't get to pick a guild from each set. So you were stuck in one color, just drafting all the non-multicolor cards.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Obzon just, you know, kind of got the shaft at the end of the...
It got the shaft, but when we were in triple Ravnica territory, this card was bananas.
Oh yeah, yeah, Obzon was the best.
Yeah, it was crazy good. This card is still, I still think it's crazy good. The fact that you can just kind of push around where the pluses and the minus goes, that's incredibly powerful. The more options you have, the more power you have in Magic, and this gives you all of those options.
And combat is so weird with this card.
Yeah, no, combat is terrible for this card for your opponent because they don't know what the hell's going to happen. As long as you have 4 open mana or even more, like almost anything can happen at that point, and they have to just sort of block everything, think of every scenario, every which way you could do that, you know, and then like you have 6 mana, you raise the alarm and pay some mana and just wreck them.
I mean, we just added another color and a random card just to make that scenario
you know what
even seem better.
I made it Obzon because you're over here talking about Obzon.
Live the Obzon life.
And live the Obzon dream.
Talk about a card that's just never performed anywhere.
No,
just so bad.
I just always thought it was going to be good.
Yeah, I think it just needed maybe 1 more damage.
One less mana.
Yeah.
If it was red blue.
Two mana. Maybe. I mean, we could put an Isochron Scepter.
Maybe.
All right, we're joking. This card is bananas.
This card is very good. Found in your produce section.
It's always fresh. Never goes out of style.
See with this guy. Yeah. Always misted with water.
Yeah.
Weird.
No, you don't want to miss this with water.
No. Yeah. It'll shock you.
Yeah.
Yep. But Electrolyze, very, very powerful. Seen in plenty of constructed decks. Been reprinted quite a bit.
I mean, it's just such a good... It's a good modern card, but it doesn't have that big price tag because you can't really play more than 1 or 2. Like, it's a great effect to have. It's one of the best cards to have in Snapcaster mirror matches because like they have annealing clicks, and you want to like make sure like in a Snapcaster
War.
Yeah, in a Snapcaster War, you want to make sure that you can kill their Snapcasters without losing card advantage.
Right.
Because if like they play Snapcaster and do something, you lightning bolt, and they play Snapcaster and do something, you lightning bolt it. All of a sudden, like they're up 2 cards, you're down 2 cards. So like Electrolyze has always been good at that balance, but it doesn't see a ton of modern play, even though it's a card that is so good in modern.
It used to see an absolute ton of modern play, and then for whatever reason they just kind of stopped really, you know, kind of using it, I guess is the way to put it. But it doesn't mean it's not good, and it doesn't mean it's not amazing flashback, and it's certainly fantastic in any limited format because you can potentially be a 2-for-1 or even a 3-for-2 or whatever. Because you can
just
kill
be a
2
0-for-2, yeah.
Well, you can kill 2 of their things, and then you can just draw a card.
0-for-2.
Okay.
That's how I think that's the best way to say it.
Ooh, I saw what you did there. 0-for-2. I gave up nothing. Ethercast Knight. That's what you were trying to think of in the wide review.
This is like such a busted curve when you just play.
Card is great.
Now I don't remember the other card's name though.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't either.
No, there's the homunculus.
Court homunculus.
Court. I don't remember the court homunculus. Court homunculus.
Yeah, court homunculus.
Homunculus. Yes.
Homunculus.
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 No
banana, new
red
banana. No banana, new banana.
Red. It's even red. But Ethercast Knight, super powerful. Exalted is a fantastic ability that just kind of builds on itself and kind of, I don't want to say get out of control, but when you play the court homunculus into this guy and you're smashing for 3, that's serious business on turn 2.
Yeah, and this is just a great 2-drop. It like blocks a lot of the early aggressive creatures coming from the red decks, and it attacks as a 2/4 on its own.
Right.
Like these Exalted cards are really good, and I loved Exalted from the past, and I love it coming back. And especially when you double up, like you play a second one, you attack for 3 immediately.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, imagine if this was just like a white-blue 2/4, like it would be fantastic. And so, yeah, you don't kind of get that on the defense, but you certainly get on the offense, and that is great stats and limited. Very hard to deal with. Early pick for those types of decks that want those artifacts.
Thank you, Wizards, for printing a card that everyone else needs more of because it's so expensive right now.
It is stupidly expensive.
Yeah.
It's like $40 or something.
It's just unbelievably expensive. Yeah, it's just never been reprinted since this, right?
Right.
And it's really good. And the decks that want it need 4. It like fights Escape Ship decks. It fights Tron decks. It's just a great card in the Living End decks, just as an annoying thing because Living End doesn't really have much to do.
I mean, this is the closest thing that Wizards will give you to land destruction these days.
Oh, this is a really good land destruction spell.
It's a fantastic land destruction spell, but it's basically as far as Wizards is going to push it, and they haven't reprinted this card or even printed anything like it ever since they printed it. Well, that's a reason, A, why it's so expensive, but B, why it's so powerful, because when this is the best option you have and answers that many problems with Urzatron and yada yada, like, that's a big deal.
But in this format, it doesn't look like it's going to be that great, but play it because of all the crew lands.
Or you can just, well, I mean, you can blow them out with the crew lands, or you can just get money.
Yeah, you get money out of it, but I would play it every single time because most people are going to play their crew lands And if you're on the play and they like, you know,
Oh God.
play a spell on turn 2 and then turn 3 they play the crew and you're just like Fulminator, kill your land, you just like set them back so much.
Yeah, you set them back big time. They're hurting. They lost their Karoo. They
Yeah.
lost their acceleration. Like they're down a land. Like
They're down 2.
Yeah,
because it's like them missing a land drop and returning a land to their hand. It's so bad.
Yeah, you're putting them back 2 turns basically.
Yep.
And that's crazy good. So it's always playable if nothing else, just as a good old fashioned Gray Ogre. But when it gets them, it usually gets them good.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost Council or Zova, baby.
So you know, I might like the new incarnation of Ghost Council.
Sure.
But this was my jam back in the day. I played so much hand-in-hand black-white. This card used to use damage on the stack. It's going to be a little bit weaker now that damage does no longer get stacked. It really will.
And there's no promise of Boom Ray or whatever in here either. But like with the sort of sacrifice deck, I mean, you know, you're able to essentially push this right into black-white tokens, as it were. And it's a spirit. You
can
devour the
sacrifice
greed.
it for Devouring
You
Greed.
sure could.
You can return it with Soul Shift.
Yes, you could.
Soul.
With from Scuttling Death. Yeah. Mondos and combos. But ultimately, it's a very powerful card. It was powerful back in the day. 4 mana, 4/4, great ability. Really hard to deal with. Really hard to kill. They have a mana up and another creature. They're always going to blink this thing, and it slowly over time will just wear you out. And you can also, at the end, at the end of their combat step or the end of their second main phase, you know, sack one of your tokens, take it out, and then bring it back at the beginning of the next end step. So you kind of drain them for 1, and then you're essentially dealing 5 damage with the Ghost Council.
Yeah, card's just great.
Card is very good, easy to pick first pick, and like make your deck built around it because it is that powerful and that impacting. Step it. Glass Dust Hulk, man.
I just remember this card.
Memories. It's not good.
I mean, it's fine.
It's okay.
Cycling's great. So if you're in blue-white, you should always play a card like this no matter what. Because even if you never want to cast it, because you want to cycle into your more powerful spells.
Yeah, I may have spoken a little earlier. I remember that I'm sort of like, I'm starting to think, I'm like, Glass Dust. Well, A, it's got a lot of synergy with all the other artifacts that are in the set. And B, this is actually a card that ends games. Like what I was remembering, I was like, wait a minute. I remember like cycling this card infinitely, but I also remember playing in a game where someone played it and then just kept playing artifacts and then just killed me with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it can do. Its base stats aren't that good because cycling for 1 mana is so good. And cycling, you don't see a lot in this format because cycling was an onslaught thing.
Right.
And there's a little bit of cycling throughout since then.
Yeah.
But the most powerful thing about these effects is that they're just so cheap and efficient. Just 1 mana, draw a card when you don't want to cast it. And it gets you through your deck. It gives you a sense of velocity to try to get to your more powerful spells.
Right. If you're in white-blue and you don't have the white or you don't have the blue, this is a card that's like, it's cool. It's fine. Just cycle me. We go through. We're cool. All right. That's what would happen. Hearthfire Hobgoblin, and we're back again where they overcosted Double Strike and thought Double Strike was the best thing ever.
To be fair, I don't think this card's overcosted. I think this card is really good, especially like maybe I'm just thinking too much of the Shadowmoor mono red deck. But I think in this format has
Ashenmoor Fiend, no, Gouger. Ashenmoor Gouger, and that's fine. But Hearthstone Hobgoblin, like I think certainly in the mono red deck or the you know the aggro decks that are base red, like certainly want this card, but ultimately it's a little. I've always felt it was a little overcosted for what it did. But of course, if you have any pump spells, that's a big thing. That's a big deal. And this is a card that is scary. Don't get me wrong. It's very scary, and it could take out a 4/4.
Yeah, I think this card was just very well because it deals 4 damage. And yeah, this card's great. Like it's part of the aggressive deck. Yeah, it's a really good card.
Yep, it's. I mean, I'm not saying don't play it. I'm just saying that like this, I always kind of felt it was just a hair overcosted.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit, but I'd much rather it be like costed like this than Boros Swift or what was it? Boros Swiftblade. Yeah, Swiftblade.
Yeah,
it is forced to be a Boros card, where this card can be a mono white card or mono red card, which gives it a little bit more of a boost, and it's worth the 2/2.
Right, and that versatility lets it go in different decks, and it's still powerful. And so there's not saying don't play, you should play it more than likely. But just it has its own little weird drawbacks. Well, there's a whole theme that we'll get to in red about elementals. Elementals was a thing that they're doing for red.
They didn't make Smoke Raider, did they?
Yes, they did.
Oh, Smoke Raider is in the set?
Yes, it is.
I missed it.
Yep. So there's Smoke Raiders of the world, and that's fine. And there's the other one that I can't remember. The Soulfire
Grandmaster. Soulfire Grandmaster. Final answer.
No, the one that makes. Anyway, we'll get to it. It doesn't matter. The point is, they want elementals to be a thing. Here's like your elemental card that you want. This is the elemental card that you could actually just get past. You know, like you could get this card like 7th pick, and you shouldn't really be surprised because A, it's not worth a whole bunch, at least that I understand.
It's not.
And B, it's you got to play it in the elemental deck, or you're not going to really be able to play it at all.
And even if you're in the elemental deck, you might still not be able to play it. It's okay. I love the art. I've always liked this card. I've never respected it, and I've never gotten got by disrespecting it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never really gotten anything out of this card other than I thought it was really cool.
Yep.
The end. Lore scale Codal. This is a really good card, by the way. This is a very powerful card that lets you, like, with all the proliferate and graft in the set, like, this card is real and can, I mean, over time, just gets basically out of control.
Yeah, especially, like, if you're one of the lucky ones to open a Noble Hierarch.
Right.
And then you can just play this on turn 2.
Nice.
Just go to town.
Yep.
But
force them to have the removal spell, and then at that point, and not just a removal spell that destroys target creature, but like -2/-2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, it turns into a 3/3, and then turns into a 4/4, and then you're winning really quickly.
And then you just evoke a Mulldrifter and attack for a ton. And it's a cool card. It's definitely where you want to be if you're in blue green, because you need to get early creatures that get bigger faster. Because I don't think blue-green actually has a lot of synergies like the other colors.
Sure.
So this card probably won't see a lot of play in this set, but if you are blue-green, you're going to need cards like this, and you will get them.
Yeah, this is one of those sort of premier blue-green cards. This is the type of card that kind of pushes you into that sort of archetype because it's really powerful. If you even just play it on turn 3, that's okay, because, again, it turns to a 3/3 to the 4/4 and so on, and it becomes a problem that they can't ignore.
Yep.
Mystic Snake, also a card that will push you in blue-green.
Yes,
not quite as much, but it is very, very powerful.
There's no Momentary Blink. There's Otherworldly Journey, but that doesn't work with it.
No.
Momentary Blink was so much fun.
It was the bestest.
But and that was a deck back in the day where you could Momentary Blink your Mystic Snakes and just keep countering things. But Mystic Snake is a very good limited card. It saw some constructed play too. But it's just so powerful because it's so difficult to play around.
Right. I mean, it's almost always value. You not only get to counter their best thing, you get to have a 2/2 left over, and that's a big deal. And again, in the blue-green archetype, this is exactly the type of cards you want. And once you have it, you pretty much sit on those 4 mana until they run right into it.
Yeah, as long as you have a better board state than them.
Yep. Otherwise, you might want to tap the 4 mana and not die.
Yeah.
That seems good.
It's a good one.
That seems all right.
Or you just say, I'm going to counter something before this game's over.
And that is the end of the first half of the multicolor cards and all of the black cards in Modern Masters 2015.
That is not true. There will be some black cards in the multicolor part in the second set.
Brad, you're killing me, dude.
He's not going to let me do this for too long if I keep challenging him.
It's just going to be bloody fights. It's going to be terrible.
I'm just be like, I'm just sick of all of it.
It's done. I'm just done. Regardless,
you can no longer tap the cards for them.
Yes, I can. You don't tell them what to do. You're the boss of me.
You kind of are.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. For Evan Irwin,
Brad Nelson,
we're tapping the cards
so you don't have to.
See you next time.